Welcome to From Small Towns to Global Stages, a think tank media podcast. Hosted by Dru Daniels, this show explores the journey from local beginnings to global opportunities in the world of events, blending real stories, industry insight, and the human side of building a career. Start small, show up big. Here we go.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to From Small Towns to Global Stations. As always, I am Dru, your host, and today we have Miss Shannon Gehringer with us. So before we start diving into what Shannon and I discussed we were going to talk about today, I always like to have my guests kind of talk a little bit about their past career experience. So after doing a little bit of research on LinkedIn, it seems to me that you've had a very diverse career path. So I kind of wanted to just have you take us through and provide us with a high-level overview of what exactly you've done up to this point career-wise.
Great. Thanks for having me, Drew. Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon Gehringer. I'm based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And yes, I've been in the meetings and sometimes travel industry for a long time now. I started off my career in 2008, graduating from college in Chicago. And from there, I joined an association management company in Chicago called Smith Buckland. And Smith Buckland specializes in the government and a board of directors for nonprofit association. And the nonprofit that I was assigned to was called SITE, the Society of Incentive and Travel Executives. And so I did membership and chapter management for that association, which ultimately led me into this industry of meetings and events globally. SITE is an organization of buyers and suppliers worldwide. So that was really the key for me to become a meeting planner as we are today. And so from there, I've worked on many different company clients, pharmaceutical, healthcare, IT, etc. So that's the long and short of it from the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you. So if you want to do a little more specific, so you worked at site and started like dabbling into incentive travel. And then what exactly did you do while you were at site?
Yep, I was assigned right away to manage the trade shows. One was in Frankfurt, one was in Barcelona, a couple in Las Vegas. I remember my first conference was in Switzerland. And so, with that, it was a lot of member maintenance and ensuring that the members had everything that they needed in order to run their chapters. And so it was interesting because it was sort of a meta experience because I was exposed to the meeting planner world of the buyers and the hotels, the destination management companies, tour operators, all that whole world from the outside, and then decided to get into it with the company that I'm actually with today. So by being around the high energy and the amazing professionalism and all the things that you can learn in our industry, by being around it, I was naturally just slid into it and then sort of went up the ranks in operation. I was given some really good advice from one of the leaders at my company to understand the operations and learn registration, hotel room block management, ground transportation, food and beverage, overseeing travel directors and staff. If you get really good at that, one day you can sell. And so that's sort of the path that I'm on now is getting all the operations underneath my belt and then be an account executive in the industry.
Wow, that's exciting. Especially
Hey,
taking what you did, you're welcome, initially and then transforming it and building on to what you're doing now. So like being able to combine all those parts into a future career. So that sounds awesome and very entrepreneurial. So did you want to start out in events? Like you mentioned you graduated in Chicago and then ended up at the company that you worked for. Did you just always know you wanted to be in events or were you kind of like hesitant at first or did you kind of fall into it?
um, I I knew from traveling to Europe on those trade shows that there was something about it that I wanted to be in that environment. I never really saw myself as an event planner, or it's kind of a niche industry that you don't really have a title for it, like in drop down menus on websites. You don't really
Mm-hmm.
see corporate meeting event planner, and it's kind of obscure when it comes to explaining it to other people. So I didn't ever really see myself becoming a meeting planner, but I think that since I got lucky mixed in with worked hard, I was assigned nice programs, nice incentive trips, and high level board meetings. So again, I sort of just flowed with it from enjoying that travel environment, the fast pacedness of being a planner, and all of the overall relationships. Basically, back to that first day that I started my career, I still have those friends because I just happened to have sight as that client that really was not your average organization to be a part of. Um,
Mhm.
and so, no, I really didn't plan on doing all of these corporate meetings, but in the end, I really like it because you have the ability to have an expertise in the planning components that your client doesn't necessarily know about. Some night like easy tricks to impress the client is a because you're doing it every day for all the time, and
Mhm.
be just being that advisor is a really I like that role because you're feeling like you're really helping them make sure that their meeting is great on site.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially that you've been able to maintain those friendships even after you haven't really been with that company in a while. So that's always good and emphasizes that whole need for networking and continuing to build those relationships beyond your co-working relationship. So that's awesome. So I'm going to pick your brain more about what you did with site and just like well, you've been to multiple countries that you listed as you were talking about it, so that's just absolutely so cool. But if you could just talk a little bit more about what it takes to really put together those incentive trips and those trade shows and different things like that, especially when it comes to planning them internationally, like that whole language barrier and all the other things that I'm sure were barriers that you needed to overcome.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll use my favorite example, which was a Mediterranean cruise on the Sea Dream Yacht Club. So it was a cruise, but their tagline is yachting, not cruising, because it's a smaller, nice, intimate, high-end cruise ship. And so I was assigned to I'll kind of give the lowdown from the beginning to the end in a high level. I was assigned to go on a site inspection. So that means that you have to go check out the destination. And in this case, it was making sure that the boat was going to be the standards of the client. So we went to the
Mhm.
Mediterranean. Actually, the site inspection was in the Caribbean because we were only checking out the boat and the services and the level of service. Typically, you would be checking out multiple destinations. At any rate, the actual program was from Nice and then down throughout the coast of Italy. And that planning was very intense. It was liaising constantly with the boat and the cruise directors in conjunction with the activities that the group was going to be doing on land, and
Mhm.
just every single minute of the trip was being planned while I was on a program in Houston. So that's another thing too. You're juggling, you're constantly assigned usually a lot of programs at once. So you really have to laser in on your assignments. But that program took a lot of planning for the food and beverage with I mean, we're talking to an Italian restaurant off the coast of
Mhm.
like Rome. And so if you have common sense and ask the right questions, you can be a meeting planner if you just focus and learn the tricks of the trade with the mechanicals of working with the suppliers, sending in the hotel rooming list, maintaining the rooming list with the accurate dates, checking the rooming list with the air so that if somebody is coming in on this date, do they have a hotel or did they not plan it right? You have to catch that so that they're not
Mhm.
looking at you. Why didn't you catch it? It's a lot of that.
Right.
It's you're the quarterback of the team, and so
Mhm.
if something is a problem, it's you. And yeah, so the logistics behind it are anything and everything. I had one person couldn't get on the boat because they just got married and their last name changed and she just couldn't go on the
Oh, no.
cruise. So there's
Wow.
this Yeah, there's just a lot of detail mixed in with a good amount of client facing opportunities to build relationships. If a client likes you, they request you, and then you get to go on their programs, or that's really that's a really nice situation. I have bounced around from different companies, but when you do find a really good client who likes the way you work, you like the way they are, that can be a good situation because you're with them meeting over meeting, and it just makes for a
Hmm.
lot of smooth attendee experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. I just like you're like, yeah, I had to do a site inspection in like the
Yeah.
Caribbean and like it's just well, it's so normal for you. Like it's not crazy for you. And it's just I just feel like it's crazy for me because I've never experienced that. So it's just so cool to listen to people talk about that and just those experiences that they got to do at their job and all of those things. So you talked about the whole making it a smooth experience and ensuring that attendees are taken care of. And then also like dealing with multiple projects and you're on the ground in one project, but you have to continue to plan the other project. And I'm sure that's overwhelming in of itself. And then, so I wanted to ask you, what is the hardest part about planning these incentive trips? And then, just for some clarification, what is an incentive trip in general?
Yes, I can actually start with that. I should
Okay.
explain because it's straightforward, but also you just usually when I bring up that word to people on the first comment, like, what do you do? It's like they say, okay, that's when this happens, right? But yes, it's a sales trip that the company has offered. The salespeople have hit a certain criteria, and then this year they get to go to Mexico or wherever they um there's all really cool science behind incentive trips with
Okay.
what motivates sales teams. Back before I got into the industry, they were called boondoggles. Have you ever heard of that word?
No, I've never heard
Okay,
of that.
it's that would be like something our parents would call them boondoggles. So it's
Okay.
like the company's spending this money in their marketing budget to send, and like they used to have all like before things were regulated, like of course we're not in the industry in a time when nothing is regulated or whatever. They had huge
Right.
budget. So
Yeah.
anyways, today they're called incentive trips. And they have companies that specialize in exactly how to design them, whether your bosses should be invited to the trip or not. Should it just
Oh,
be all the
wow.
winners? Because that could
Hmm.
be like I just heard someone say, like, well, we're all going in the hot tub. And it's like you're with your bosses and coworkers. So there's like incentive trips are
Right.
different. Like they can be sometimes people just want the money. The whole idea behind the trip is that you would never buy this experience for yourself and your spouse or your mom or your dad, or like I took my mom on a trip one time when I was planning, not the winner. But anyways, so that's an incentive trip. They've
Mhm.
I haven't done actually that many. I did one in Mexico, that one cruise, and then
Mhm.
that same group who did the cruise, they also went to Italy again the next year. So that was
Wow.
just a blown out of the water, like a really small part of Italy called Puglia. It's the heel of the boot of Italy. We went like to an obscure area. So yeah, that's incentive trips. And then I'm sorry, I forgot the other question.
You're fine. What is the hardest part about planning those in general? Like either
Um,
those types of trips or international trips or whatever.
Well, the hardest part always, I think, with our job is like never making a mistake. And because,
Yeah.
so I think that's probably with any job, but like if you're planning, there's budget money that went behind this. There's going to be like the clients
Mhm.
and the stakeholders. So sensing right away their level of like, how is the client going to be?
Mhm.
Um, and making sure that they're feeling like they're getting a level of service. Because I have worked for, it's called a third party. We're third parties providing a
Okay.
service to, for example, um, Johnson and Johnson Vision was
Mhm.
my client, or um, uh, I worked on American Cancer Society, again, a lot CVS Health. So it's like the big companies, And so when they put this money into the trip, it's just making sure that you perform as good as possible. And then I remember, making sure that the execs are happy. Sometimes the execs don't like each other and don't agree on how the incentive trip should go.
Oh my
That
gosh.
so that you just make sure they always like you. And
Right.
then the hardest part, again, just like making sure the details of the food and beverage menus, that's
Mm,
sort of always nerve wracking because you're going to get judged on the food that you order. You're going to
mhm,
have to manage vegetarian, vegan, celiac disease, all of the specifications um, in the menu. Oh, did they have no fruit at breakfast? You're going to hear about it the next day. So
mhm,
I think a hard part, I guess, on a personal level is just maintaining that balance of the intensity of the job that it can be. This took me a long time to
mhm,
be able to be a meeting planner with like a calm head because I was thrown into it quickly internationally. And I thought that that's like how it is. And it is really fast paced, but it's just about making sure that your assignments get done in time and hitting your deadlines with the hotel. If you haven't told the hotel about what you want for the snack on Thursday afternoon, well, the chef is
mhm.
already gone. So you're going to be in hot water with your client. So
Right.
you just always maintain a strong relationship with the vendors because you're only as good as how they're going to perform for you. But incentive trips are mostly the fun ones because you're excited because you get to go. You're going to be working. But if you're one of the types of people that likes to hit the road and work and travel from the plane or work from the plane, it's a good role because I've learned at my age and having been doing this now like since 2008, um, you're valuable if you want to travel. Not everybody can or wants to or has to but the I've noticed as I got older, traveling is a bonus if you can do it in our industry because you're
Okay.
gonna be the face there on site maybe too
Mhm.
and then maybe they love you on site and then you get promoted. There's a lot of opportunities.
Awesome. That's exciting because I really want to travel. So
Yes,
personally, that's beneficial.
yes, you will be
But
great.
good. So you mentioned a lot about the stress of not being able to make a mistake and then also the like all of the logistics and the details and being able to assess other people and how they're feeling during the event and like if you're doing your job essentially. So I'm sure that is stressful. I can only
Yeah.
imagine. So in regards to that work life balance and how you manage that stress, but then also make sure it doesn't come home with you, what are some tips and tricks that you have for that?
Yes, if I would have known these things right away, it would be better. You're just getting out of college and you're starting off. So, to raise a hand right away, and if you have a question about it, just go to your manager, figure it out together. They're going to be happy to help you. So, don't let any fear of not knowing how to do something fester. Just raise your hand. They'll even maybe bring some help from another teammate. So, I think that could apply to a lot of jobs, but for me, I think definitely raising a hand if there's a question or an issue, or there's going to be an attendee who is going to complain about something on site. Um, and other tips and tricks, I think, would be when you're assigned to your program, just go all in. If you're assigned to go travel on it, you'll be dedicated to that program, probably working 12-hour days. And then when you get back to the office, you'll have time off. Um,
Mhm.
I think, what else? Um, I think maintaining enthusiasm is really important
Mhm.
because your client is going to want to know that you're in it with them. So yeah, those are a few things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I do have two more quick questions. So one of them does pertain again to the work-life balance. And I guess during your time in industry, what were some non-negotiables that you had for yourself to ensure that you maintained a positive work-life balance and didn't get too engrossed in a project or too stressed out with a project?
I think, I think to go along with raising a hand, that really leads to being able to prevent too much workload and
Okay.
communicating. For example, right now I have 17 meetings, which sounds like a lot, but I'm doing surface level work for 17 meetings. So it's not as much as it sounds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, for example, my manager today said, "Can you take 3 more?" And I said, "Yes." So we're able to talk about it. Another teammate said, "No, I can't take 3 more." So I think
Mm-hmm.
even down to as granular as you want to get as an employee to be able to communicate, I might not be able to get this done by Friday. Can I do it by Monday? That will
Mm-hmm.
lower your stress. No shame in that. I would say that was something I didn't know about. Like, okay, is another day going to be okay? Or should I stay at
Mm-hmm.
the office until midnight? And then pretty much finding when you find the 9 to 5 balance, at least for me, I want to be able to close my laptop at 5 and then
Mm-hmm.
have my evening and then have my weekend mentally. So I do physically shut down my computer instead of just shutting it physically. I shut it down so that my mind, I use that as a trick, I guess, because then it's
Mm-hmm.
away out of my workspace. And I think um as with anything, you're going to gain your efficiency as you move forward. You're going to understand quickly, oh, that person does a hotel room that way. And you're going to,
Mm-hmm.
there's camaraderie amongst the planners
Yeah.
where you just um, sort of, you learn the assignments and stay very communicative, I think is the
Yeah.
best. And even the hotel, you might ask the hotel, I needed 2 more days last week for a deadline. And they said, no problem, but just make sure it's noon on that day. So I think just
Yeah.
like be as confident as you can and
Mm-hmm.
over communicate.
Okay. Awesome. Those are good tips. So, I wanted to thank you for your time today. I definitely think it's been an interesting conversation, and it's definitely pulled a whole new element of planning into the podcast. Like, we haven't talked about incentive trips at all. So, that was super
Oh,
awesome to be
good.
able to pull in, yes, that element. So, as we conclude, I always like to ask all of the people that are gracious enough to give me their time, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is wanting to break into the international event industry or the event industry in general?
Yes. Okay. If you would like to get in, contact as many people as you can on LinkedIn or any surface level introductions you can get. If you know that you want to work as a hotel sales representative for a Puerto Rico hotel, but you want to be based in Chicago, there's all these different paths. So if you know your path, get in touch with as many people, I think, as possible. I think CEO level people are more open than we know to having a quick 20-minute conversation. Hey, let me send your resume. I've gotten lucky in my life with word of mouth jobs and getting my resume into the being open, fearless about it. No is the worst answer you can get. I personally am always happy to have a chat with new people. I'm really involved still with Site, and they have a
Mhm.
young leaders program. It's called Young Leaders, specifically for people like 35 and younger to get into the
Mhm.
industry. There's global connections all over. So the first thing would be as just friendly and out there as possible and willing to get in there, which that you probably already are, and then harvesting those connections because it really is a magical environment once you get in and you meet a couple of people and you keep rolling with it. It has given me the opportunity to see nice hotels. And
Mm.
that's something I personally want to do. And so there's some personal um, advantages. And again, I am just happy to make any type of leads or anything. As you know, we've talked in the past,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's always open to that.
Hmm. Awesome. So, like I said, thank you so much for your time. And I think this conversation has been super interesting and it covered so many topics, which I always think is great. So, and it was definitely another perspective, I think, into the world of event planning as well that we haven't talked about yet. So, thank you again, Shannon. And as
You're
always, to
welcome.
everyone who is tuned in, I hope that you gained some insight today. And don't forget to remember to be the beautiful person that you are. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, Drew.
Thanks for spending time with us on From Small Towns to Global Stages, part of Think Tank Media and Hospitality Nexus, a global, human-first platform connecting the hospitality ecosystem in one place, like a career fair that never closes. Watch all episodes at hospitalitynexus.org. Wherever you're starting from, keep going and stay beautiful.